Moving on to item number 6, HB number 5174, JFS LCO 3157, an act concerning temporary shelter units for persons experiencing homelessness located on real property owned by religious organizations. Do I have a motion?
So
And
moved.
second.
Thank you so much. Any discussion? Representative Dubitsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm very concerned about the small towns in the state if this bill were to pass. Many, if not most, of the historic churches in this state are on town greens, main streets, historic districts, etc. And to have homeless shelters plop down in these areas without any input from the town's representatives and elected officials, without any input from the people who live in these areas, I think would do grave violence to the way of life in this state. Perhaps this is appropriate in the bigger cities, but in the small towns we have an established process for determining where certain land uses take place. This bill would completely circumvent that process, and the parade of horribles that could result are endless. So for the moment, I would make a motion to raise the population cap from 15,000 to 70,000. I don't believe I need anything in writing, but I make a motion to increase the population cap from 15 to 70,000.
Okay, thank you. Representative Dubitsky, do we have a second on that motion? Thank you, Representative Hall. Madam Clerk, I do believe you need to call the roll for this one.
A motion has been
Oh, wait,
made.
hold on one second.
You should probably ask for discussion.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Any discussion on the amendment itself?
Well, I would just indicate that raising it to 70,000 would still allow the larger municipalities to utilize this. Well, it would actually force it on the larger municipalities as opposed to forcing it on the smaller towns. And frankly, that's where the greatest need is in the larger municipalities. So I think it's important that we recognize the on-the-ground damage that that allowing a homeless shelter, an outdoor homeless shelter, on every church property in every town would have, and limiting it to municipalities with 70,000, I think, is appropriate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Rahman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I think the bill right now is 15,000 and the big jump is 70,000. This bill will creating the more housing, and I think 70,000 will be undermined the bill to creating the housing. Just for that reason, I will not support proposal. Thanks. It is really sad. We talk about homelessness growing rapidly. We understand. We are all saying about the same thing. I'm saying same thing. My colleagues also saying, but same time, some reason we don't want to support creating the more housing. This bill will create more housing. We have a moral obligation as a legislator, providing the people desperately need place to live. We have a moral obligation as a citizen to bring in the people from cold weather outside. If you are in your home, you have heat, cold, whatever you want. But when you see the people outside, you acknowledge, you realizing they're cold, they're hurt, but they need something. But then when you talk about creating something for them, then you are back out. Some reason you don't want to support. You're talking about so many other options. But the option we're talking about is not going to solve the solution and finding the place to live the people desperately need. I understand all the colleagues talking about all the legal stuff, all those things. Let me talk about myself. I'm the product of the immigrant. I came in here 25 years ago. I work hard. I saved money. I opened business. I became a landlord, business owner, non-profit founder. I'm immigrant. I create over 9,000 jobs in the state of Connecticut. I own and operate number of corporations and businesses. I'm immigrant. Sometimes I joke I may pay more tax than Amazon paid because they have a lot of loophole. I don't know what is those loophole. All I know, I have to pay my fair share. I'm immigrant. 25 years ago when I came, it was really hard to find the one bedroom. There was the one bedroom, but it was not affordable. 25 years later, it's the same problem we are going through. Who will fix that? Is there anyone can talk about how we can create more housing? Any human basic need, three things they desperately need in order to survive, not doing great. Shelter, food, healthcare. It's sad we talk about those three needs to provide our brothers and sisters. Town will have option. Religious facility will have option. They can open the shelter or they don't want to open the shelter. And we all trust our religious facilities and leaders. They never harm us. They are our backbone. When you have a bad day, we go church, mosque, religious facility, consulting with our religious leaders. Support us how to go through. They are helping us to go through the hardship. If you talk about they will harm us, they will put our town and city in difficult situations, then who we should trust? Do anyone knows? Bottom line, I have place to live, you have place to live, you have food on your dinner table, you have health care. People cannot afford to pay health care, food, or shelter. Again, we have a moral obligation to find a place for those people to live. Period. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll just close out by saying, first of all, thanks to my co-chair for sharing all of that, because I think that that's an important perspective that is often missed, because we don't, unfortunately, have a lot of immigrants who have raised to the height of being either a state senator or a state representative. One of our good colleagues pointed out some of the statistics. I want to go a little further with those. We have 1,000 people sleeping outside every night. Nearly 30 of those in Fairfield County are children. We had a separate bill that the librarian from New Haven just happened to mention. There's actually over 500 children who are homeless, because when we count our numbers of people who are homeless, we don't include those who are couch surfing, and often with other folks who have Section 8 housing who are desperate not to get caught, letting their niece and nephew perhaps sleep on the couch. We have pregnant women living in vans. I had a woman approach me literally in the LOB just a week ago who, thankfully, we were able to find housing by, honest to God, a miracle. She'd been living in her van and she was disabled. We have 4,000 people living in shelter, and the biggest issue right now, we have so many people who are actually living in shelter but have jobs, but they have nowhere, we don't have transitional housing in the amount that we need it. So it's not even, we can't even, let's just put affordable housing to the side for a second. We can't get them transitioning out of the shelters. It was mentioned that we have a significant amount of people who are over the age of 55. That is something that apparently has never been seen in Connecticut before, and that certainly is weighing on my mind, because that is a really difficult time of your life if you are not employed to be able to get reemployed. I think it's unfair for us to, when we are speaking of refugees, to make the assumption that they are all here to commit violence, or it's also an unfair assumption to say that people with mental illness are violent. I want to really be clear about those two things. I heard testimony the other day in public health. People with mental illness are more likely to have violence visited upon them than they are to commit violence. That is statistically accurate. I would also say, just 2 nights ago in Avon, the Avon VFW, our veterans from foreign wars, Avon and Canton, they've adopted a family of 6, an Afghan translator, his wife, and their 4 children. And they really struggled. That was why they came to testify actually on this bill, because they really struggled to find housing. They're working with their local Catholic church in Avon to make sure that this family has a good start, because by the federal definition of refugee, they were vetted for a very long time. Even though we think that our translators that are embedded with our military get a pass, they do not get a pass. They actually are still going through a very lengthy process. If you're not aware of how long it takes once you enter a refugee camp to actually be able to come to the United States of America, and how unbelievably stringent that process is, I suggest that you become aware of that. These refugees are very different from the unfortunate undocumented folks who are, flooding the border as of now. I think we can all agree that that is something that we need to be working on, and certainly to find pathways to citizenship for people who are here and want to work, because we need those people like my good co-chair to come to this country and start businesses and help our existing businesses find employees. So I am approaching this from a humanitarian perspective, because we are in the middle of a humanitarian crisis in Connecticut with our homeless. And anything that we can do along the lines of what has been done at Rosette Village in New Haven, for instance, I think is what we should be doing. And I think that not every church, temple, and mosque is going to be in a position to erect these prefabricated shelters that are not going to be anywhere near a school. As my other good colleague said, this is a work in progress. I am open to some changes, but I am only open to changes that ultimately help us get homeless people in safe spaces. And so with that, Madam Clerk, I would appreciate you calling the roll on this bill. Thank you so much.
A motion has been made and seconded to JFS as amended HB 5174 LCO 3157. Kavros DeGraw.
Kavros DeGraw votes yes.
Rahman.
Senator Rahman votes yes.
Zullo.
Rep. Zula votes no.
Fazio.
Fazio votes no.
Chafee.
Yes.
Needleman. Hockedal. Senator Needleman.
Needleman votes yes.
Lopes.
Senator Lopes votes yes.
Juan.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I voted yes. I think I might have been on mute. This is Senator Needleman.
Your vote was received. Thank you.
Thank you.
Baker.
Representative Baker votes yes.
Baumgardner.
Representative Baumgardner votes yes.
Conley. DiAgostino. Lamar.
Representative Lamar votes yes.
McCarthy Vahey.
McCarthy Vahey votes yes.
Michelle.
Representative Michelle votes yes.
Delnicki. Dubitsky.
No.
Haynes. Hall.
Hall votes no.
Zawistowski.
No.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.